Busted a branch.
Who broke the tree?
We lost the frisbee too.
Up in the tree?
You guys do the frisbee?
We lost one up there and we lost one on the roof.
Where's it at?
Hey, it wasn't me. I didn't hurt any of them. Yeah. The roof's going to stay.
Oh, it's that round. There must be lights in there pretty good.
How you doing?
We know it is.
Enjoying the
It's a big dent.
Pretty good.
Need some help?
Cut your hair.
Did you guys just get here from home?
You need your hair.
We saw their tree.
Got your shoelace. Melinda.
You must have just missed some baby.
Cut your eyebrows.
Oh. No, we saw him.
Oh, you saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not even What's the matter, Adam? Can't walk and you can't sit.
Come to close yet? And I said, no.
Melinda.
Nothing.
Where are you going? Come here.
There's nothing there.
You want some?
There's no.
Okay, do you need some help? No.
I'm excited
Well, what are you going to the hall for then?
Because we're nosy.
Oh, well, I'm nosy too.
Thanks.
I'm not real sure.
I don't know. I haven't had Mom.
What happened, buddy?
It must be me. I guess.
Where's his arm, man? Should have seen him this morning in the shower at the campground. Right on his face. You only try to call face. He's tough. He's tough. No problem. He's tough. Yeah. Probably use a nap, huh?
Chew it up, Grace.
Yeah, they're rolling it out of there. Yeah, so there's a lot of.
I don't know, I'm
turnover.
going to have, I have to sample a piece of homemade cake.
Yeah.
Here's some napkins.
My sister-in-law.
It's too dark in here.
We several times.
the camera?
And
Yeah.
Wait, till you taste that fire.
got
does.
out.
That's
Last one.
Kathy, John's wife, Morris's wife.
Too many of them, I can't name names of who people belong to straight anymore.
I'm having trouble too.
Me too, Grandma.
Yeah, I bet you are. Not Kevin's not Kevin. She's not, whose wife is she? Yes,
Morris.
Morris, not Kevin.
But I see.
But they call him John, not her.
Oh, okay.
They're strong.
I think there's more than
Did you hear that, Kathy?
How old is this picture?
Where are you from?
When was this picture taken?
That was 10 years ago. That was
That's
our
our kid.
I
We were
know.
trying to figure that out too. I don't know.
I think, or maybe it was at Grandpa's birthday. It's the family picture. No, it's at the,
Vacationing now, huh?
And then at the
50th anniversary, yeah.
50, well, that's 20 years ago.
Yes,
10
10.
years. Well, look at her, look at me, and she doesn't even, I'm kidding.
Hi.
Hi.
Who said hi?
Melody.
Oh, hi, Melody.
This is the mom. She's a mere kid herself, but she's the mom of our oldest great grandson.
Sitting out there.
I don't want him to be
The
embarrassed.
only one I didn't know, Margaret, was Michelle, and she's the last one I saw.
Oh,
Hi, Melody.
Well,
You
That's the
didn't
one
get, no,
that
I,
came after
Yeah.
that.
well, I
One
saw,
on the ridge, yeah.
I didn't know Michelle, I couldn't figure out who she was. I kept trying to ask Marion who she was, the girl with the dark hair.
Something with
And he kept saying,
computers,
that's
but I don't know what he did.
Rachel, I know she lives in
Monica and Laurie, always,
She's
Laurie looks like Monica.
Yeah.
And now when I see,
he had a big
Staying out of
She does better than the kids sometimes, I'll tell you. He's over there.
No, how you stop it then?
Then you hit that again.
Oh. This is Grandma and Grandpa's house. We're seeing everybody talking.
He started to tear down the house. How old is she? She's reading 18. Is she? Just they drove up around it.
Well, hi. Fine. You're back. Yeah.
Hi, Gay.
You're back, huh?
How are you? Good. That's quite a clan we got outside today.
Diana on her way. Diana's little girl. Megan was looking for a little girl to play with. But I said, there's a lot of them here. How old is she? She's
Lily has the husband, Marion,
Yeah,
and there's the wife, Claire.
When I had
I heard somebody visit my sister's granddaughter.
It was outside Grandma's yard before the party. At the church.
Have you ever had that cookie dough? It's just like chocolate chip cookie dough. Oh, wow. They have it at Bradford's too. Raw eggs. Do you like raw cookie dough? Well, they have it at Bradford's now.
Mother spent most of one winter down there. Where's Johnny? Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Johnny.
This is his son, and
That's Johnny, the nerd.
Nerd.
Too much fun.
You're real good. How about yourself?
Oh, good.
You're looking good.
Oh, thanks. I think I'm gonna catch up with you guys now. My age, you guys look like kids.
Oh, and he's looking for
I'm not
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
If we're not related by blood, we're related by marriage. Everybody here. Except for you all.
St. Anne would, really.
There.
You're gonna be recording this. Just give it a shot. I'll get in trouble.
Hey, Rachel.
We went out there.
Yeah, for reals this time.
Automatically focuses.
Excuse me.
It has to be steady. Don't get so close.
I'm not. I'm.
Brought that goddamn cat. They're gonna get me worked up here, John.
It won't be shown out of Lyman County. Don't have to worry about you. Well, just don't do anything.
Say hi.
Michelle.
Michelle.
Okay, here's your
Wait, now you're on here forever. For real. Uh-oh. I'm serious, it's on.
Shut up! Guests of honor. Get Grandma and Grandpa coming out the door.
You bumped me.
Who's counting?
They wouldn't arrest
I
anybody.
think Tom got it first.
Just throwing cans in there.
No, I think it's He's taking it over there. No, I think Catherine.
We're kind of like backing up there. Gotta change the Buddha speed.
Okay, this is downstairs of the church and Reliance. grandma and grandpa. Now I see a shower of wide array of people visiting.
And you're gonna juggle with it.
Does it make any difference where we eat on top? Does it make any difference?
Brian, I didn't see you, Brian. You were gone when I got back.
Okay, can we take a moment? The saying in the Old Testament seems very appropriate for this evening. You will be blessed in your children's children. And so we're very much aware of the great blessings that come to Claire and Marion, and we give thanks. We thank Almighty God for all of the blessings that He has given us in the past, and ask His continual blessings in the future. We ask Him to bless Claire and Marion with many more years, good years, happy years, and bless their families. We ask God to bless all those who have traveled the distance to be here for their safe journey and return. We ask God to bless all those who have prepared and served the food. And we bless the food which we are about to receive from the goodness of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Right now we're outside the Catholic Church in Reliance, immediately after the dinner for Grandma and Grandpa Murphy. Seeing all the people out visiting.
Well, I did one, but anyway, I was in the hospital, so darn sick, and I said to my sister, if I'm too sick to smoke,
I don't know what happened to it after they're done playing with it.
Why not? Because they'll kill me out there.
They're not that tough.
Asked if he wanted to play baseball, and I said no. Matt said it was a game for wimps.
It is.
Jay, should we get out there and show them how to play? Huh?
Here's the real men out playing football and the women.
Okay.
Put your shoes on, silly.
Smile. Perfect. Right, there she goes back in. Oh, she's not. What? Let's watch her go down the stairs. See if she falls.
Stop it!
Oh, you kind of look like the Exorcist. There, she's gone now. Some bad words. Zoom out. She won't turn around.
You ticklish.
I'm not ticklish.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
No. Nope.
Oh, sure, now she smiles. Mary, Margie. Mary. Mary. Hi, Mary. I'm gonna videotape you. Move your hand. Oh, there's Michelle. I thought we lost her. You're right.
The red light's on. It's recording. You're recording my shoulder here.
Around Vivian and Drake for the first years of their marriage. During this time, Mary Margaret was born. Marion worked on the road, but both Marion and Claire dreamed of having their own ranch and owning their own herd of cattle. In 1937, Marion and Claire moved north of Reliance to the ranch, where they spent the next 50 years of their lives. Shortly after they moved, Kathleen was born. 2 years later, Jim was born, and 1 year later, Owen was born. John was born in 1947. They worked hard all those years. They also had time for fun, rodeos, quilting bees, school programs, family reunions, birthday dinners when the birthday person got their favorite pie and they got to stay up all night. In the winter, there were times when they were snowed in for 4 to 6 months. and they saw nobody but each other. They worried each season about whether there would be enough hay for the cattle to make the winter, whether the pastures would dry up in the summer. In the spring, the creek would rise and calves would be born often in the middle of a spring blizzard. Sometimes there would be calves in the kitchen. One Easter Sunday morning, Claire had a hard time getting breakfast because there were 6 baby calves running around the kitchen, bumping into her. Claire was one of those what we would call now non-working women. All she did was rise at 5 o'clock in the morning, get breakfast, dress the kids, and take them with Marion to the hayfield, where she drove the horses or a tractor, mowing and raking hay. Then she would come home at night, fix dinner, do the wash after heating the water on the stove, hang the clothes on the clothesline to dry, light the kerosene lamp, and read a book. The only time she would sit down, other than this, was when she would, every Saturday afternoon, stick her ear into this old wooden battery-operated radio and listen to the opera. The kids remember being told not to make a sound as Madame Butterfly sang her sad song right in the middle of the old ranch house. Also, similarly, they weren't to make a sound when Marion stuck his head in the same wooden radio and listened to Joe Louis beat somebody up on the regular Friday night fight. Marion worried about grass and hay and calves being born and dying, and checking the pasture for sick cattle, and the dams drying up early in the summer. He loved the land and the wonders of the seasons, and he loved his kids, and he loved a good horse and a good rodeo. He taught his kids the value of work and the value of family. 60 years later, and all their kids are doing well and have families of their own and have spread themselves out all over the United States. Family reunions look kind of like an international summit as different races and ethnic backgrounds are represented in the daughters and sons-in-law, the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. 2 favorite sayings come to mind when describing Marion and Claire and their philosophy of life. Many years ago, when the bleakness of January would bring many feet of snow, and it would look like winter would never end, Claire would go to the window, look out at 50 feet of snow on the 4th day of a 4-day blizzard, and say, "I think it's the clearing up shower. Soon there will be a Chinook." Since a Chinook is a warm wind that would melt the snow and clear the road, this symbolizes Claire. She is always optimistic and encouraging and prayerful. She has told her family, wait for the Chinook in all kinds of trials and tribulations. Times when school was difficult for someone, or there was no job for a while, or a grandchild was in trouble. Whatever it was, Claire was on the other end of the telephone line, and the kids would call and Claire would listen, and then she would share her wisdom, and in all the messages there was that same hope of soon there will be a Chinook. And sure enough, she's usually right. A Chinook comes along and everything works out. Marion's phrase is one we have all heard over and over. The phrase is, stay in the buggy. And it tells you who he is. Marion is a tenacious, tough, sometimes stubborn, but always caring father, grandfather, brother, neighbor, and friend to thousands. He befriends people everywhere. On the tour bus in New York City, embarrassed us all, in Rome, in Ireland, in the doctor's office, in line at a grocery store, at a stockbroker meeting, carrying around a political petition. When he leaves, he knows who is there and something about their life. He has a passion for life that never quits. He drives his family a little crazy sometimes because he knows everybody and everybody knows him. And he has kept more people waiting in cars while he had one more little visit than any man alive. So his message of stay in the buggy means different things to different people. It means when he leaves them, it means stay tough. It means don't forget to come back. It means Keep on trying, as life can be hard, but it's worth every minute of struggle. And most of all, it means I love you a hell of a lot, and I don't exactly know how to say that, and this is my way of letting you know. Marion and Claire have never been like two peas in a pod. Their differences have provided the spark for their lives. How boring they might have been had they been too much alike. Because of their differences, they give us a rich and valuable heritage. Their sense of humor has added to the spark. So Marion and Claire have given their family and their friends the best of themselves. The hope found in waiting for the Chinook and the tough strength of staying in the buggy say well what they together have offered their family and the world. We all thank you, Marion and Claire. May God bless you, and may we all celebrate your 70th anniversary in only 10 years.
I'm supposed to get up and say something now after that. Kathleen read that to me one day. She was putting it together. She read it to me one day at work, and then she expected me to go back to work. We do have a few other people I think that we could get some memories out of, and I have a story that I want to read, but not right away. Pat, you said you wanted to read something. Would you?
The tough part about writing this, my contribution to the official Grandma and Grandpa Murphy 60th wedding anniversary story compilation book, wasn't thinking of something to write. There's lots of stories about the Murphy family. This is a regular anecdote factory. The difficult part is putting all the ideas and the stories and things I could have thought of down on paper. And most of the stories I know would be secondhand versions of someone else's better story with a little bit better put. And rather than tell a once in Chamberlain when Grandpa was, or remember the time when Grandpa was, I'm just going to throw a few jumbled memories of my own happy times with Grandma and Grandpa Murphy. And in my book, Grandma won that argument. If you're wondering what that argument was, it's the happy times with a capital H and a capital T. The ancient debate of the meaning of the HT brand. Although Grandpa insists that it stands for hard times, and will declare this with authority whenever any curious person might ask, Grandpa will kind of slyly bend over and wink at the curious person and assure them, in truth, HT is only happy times. And like I said in my book, and probably this whole book here, HT is happy times. I'm sure Grandpa and anyone else who has had to ride fence associates sore backsides from horseback rides with HT hard times. But ask any grandchild or great-grandchild that grew up and visited the old homestead, any munchkin that ever came by with them, and HT is happy times. When I rode, I always picked Tuffy. I usually didn't have to fight for the privilege because Tuffy was an old piece of leather that didn't like to turn the way you wanted him to, and wouldn't stop when you wanted him to, wouldn't go when you wanted him to, but when you wanted him to go, he was just an ornery old bastard. Didn't have the smoothest ride on the ranch or the sweetest disposition, but Grandpa rode Tuffy. It must have meant that he was the best horse around because Grandpa was the best cowboy around, and that's why I wanted to ride Tuffy. It's been a long time since I rode out on the ranch. Lately, the closest thing I've done to riding an ordinary old tough horse like Tuffy is argue politics with Grandpa. The biggest difference between riding Tuffy and arguing with Grandpa is that Tuffy won't listen to you no matter which way you want to turn. Grandpa will listen to you if you want to turn him to the right. He walks like hell, though, as soon as you start towards the left at all. And while these arguments were going on, sometimes tempers would flare, and Grandpa would stand up to the kitchen table and go, and that's how he'd punctuate his argument. A little bit of veins popping out on the side of his head. But we almost never really offended each other for more than 5 or 10 minutes. And not only did we not offend each other, we never really reached a conclusion to anything we've ever debated. And in spite of hours and hours of no, it's this, no, it's that, no, it's this, all we end up doing is saying the same argument over and over and over again, and then firmly entrench ourselves in these same two opposing beliefs. Grandma and I have never really argued politics, because I don't know if I dare. But on Grandma's last visit out to Elko, we got into a little bit of a heated one on religion. And for more than 4 hours, Grandma vehemently agreed with almost everything I ever believed in. And she became convinced that I'm a godless heathen. But before Grandma and Grandpa headed back to Reliance, I hugged Grandma goodbye and asked, so you're going to pray for your heathen grandson? She looked up into my face and responded, only if you promise to pray for your Spanish Inquisition grandmother. And I do promise. And for what the prayer of a godless heathen is worth. I'm not really a godless heathen, I'm just a doubting Thomas. But when Grandma looks up into your eyes and says she's going to pray for you, those doubts disappear. When you see the face of God and your grandmother's love, there's not much else you can do. So there's been hard times and hot tempers. There's no doubt there's going to be more of both of those. But the Murphy's HT is happy times.
I have a letter from Mabel, Polish who has been with this family for as long as I can remember. She said she didn't want to be in it. She said it was all right. She said it was all right if I read it. Memories of Claire and Pat. I had known the Murphy family forever, and I met them in Pierre in the early 1930s. Having known them for so many years, I have many pleasant memories of the great visits at the ranch. Many pleasant hunts, seeing the family grow up and get married. We were in Reliance for Jim and Gay's wedding. A tornado had hit the town the night before, so no electricity for the rehearsal dinner at the ranch. Many stockbrokers meetings brought them to the hill, so we would benefit from that too. They would come and see us. We were at the ranch one time, and Johnny was into doing the Elvis Presley imitation. I'm sorry I missed that. Maybe I'll do it later tonight. We do it. She says we do have it on the movies, so. Since Guy has been gone, I don't get to see them so often. But thanks to Austin, I will be at the 60th celebration and have many happy more years. It's so special to have you here. Anyone else have a story they read for us? I see a Democrat in the back.
It's trying to set
Every celebration has a total Democrat.
It's trying to set some of this stuff straight. Kathleen, I really enjoyed your rendition of what happened on this, but I'd like to. My name is Lester Gary. I'm from Brandon, South Dakota. My wife Ronnie is in the back here. Ronnie, would you stand and wave? That was the quickest stand in the world. But she moved that quick at home. I met the Lois and Owen and their family and the Jerry family have been friends for the past, about 20 years.
You were in high school, 20, 15 years?
I was in high school, yeah. I was a junior, I think, and you were a senior. Met this couple in Fort Collins, Colorado.
20 years ago.
How long?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. 22 years ago. We're in front of the Catholic Church in Fort Collins, Colorado. They were parked out front, right in front of the church. It was a no parking zone. And he pulled in there, you know, no one was there, so he just pulled right in. He was late for Mass. Mass was going to start in about 20 minutes. So it was late for him. So after Mass, I went up and I was enamored. I left South Dakota as a very young person, right out of high school. After a lot of people got together and decided that'd be the best thing to happen, and so I left. And went into the service, and every time I saw a South Dakota car, I thought I knew them. Well, I went up and introduced myself to these folks and told them who I was, and wanted to know where they were from, and I didn't recognize the numbers, but they told me they were from Lyman County, and we visited, and he wanted to know what I did and if I had any cattle. And I said, no, I didn't have any. So he was looking in his book, you know, to see if he knew me at all, you know, and I'll get to that. But so then we left, and they went their way and went on their vacation. I think they were probably going out to California or coming back from there or something. A year and a half, 2 years later, I was working in Pierre. I left Fort Collins, went to work for a short period of time during the Camelot period, we like to call it, when the Democrats were in Pierre. I didn't go over very good. Well, anyway, Owen and Lois came into town, and we met, and we were in the same kind of business, in the computer business in those days. And so we met, and we were working together, and Owen happened to tell his mom that he was working with a guy by the name of Les Gary. And she remembered my name. She remembered that we had met in Fort Collins. So we became fast friends because of that. Over the years then, since that time, since 1972, I guess, when you came back, 72, we've been, you know, kind of following along. Owen's dad would come into Pierre, they'd come to Pierre, and he liked to go in and listen to the legislature. And he'd go to the committee meetings and watch all these things. And he seemed to enjoy it, but he didn't hear it, so he turned his hearing aid off, so he didn't want to listen to what the hell they were talking about anyway, you know? But then he'd go home at night to Lois and Owens, and they would watch it on television. And Owen says, well, Dad, why do you want to watch it on television? Well, maybe it'll come out different this time. It must be better. But they spent some good time there. We visited with them. I've seen him here. I've stopped in and he'd be down fishing, and he'd pull out this big fish, and I was really impressed, you know. He had this great big fish, and I think I made a joke about it, this little man with a big fish or something like that. But he kept catching this fish, and people knew about him, and they talked about how, boy, all the fish that's in this little creek, and it's probably dried up most of the time, but he brings out these big fish. I stayed here for 3 days one time. He's named that fish. It's the same one. He calls that fish in whenever there's a strange car drives by. He gets that thing out, and he brings up that fish, and then he feeds it, you know. They take it home, they feed it, they pet it if it's cold. And here he's trying to make people believe it's a lot of fish. It's the same old one. I don't know how he gets by with it, but he does. The fact that we're here is really, I grew up in Salem, and I didn't know the O'Donnell was the family name. I didn't know that, but we've talked about what Salem means, and it is a special town to me also. But that's where the card was from, written to the O'Donnells in Salem. It's a great little town. We just spent quite a bit of time there recently. But getting back to the guy I know a little bit more about, he wanted some tires. I told him about a deal I was getting on some tires. They got this writing on the side. They write in white, you know, Tiempo and Goodyear. And I told him that we were going to get some of these tires. I need them for my car. And he said, well, that's good. He said, how much are you going to have to pay for these? And I said, about $65 to $70 a piece. He said, oh my God, that's an awful lot of money for the tire. I said, well, it's the white writing on it, though. It's the in thing. It's what everybody has. He said, I can get you some a lot cheaper than that. I said, well, I thought maybe, you know, through AARP or something like that, you were going to send off. And I said, well, how soon can you have me? He said, well, if I just drive out to Jimmy's and you go that one way and come back, I can get you four, for sure. I said, okay. So I waited around and we had some coffee and stuff. He come back in, says, come on out. He said, I got you those 4 tires. I said, what's it going to cost me? He said, about $7. I said, a piece? He said, no, total. I said, well, that's grand. He said, well, they're not matching. So what do you mean? He said, well, 2 of them say no hunting and 2 say keep out. Let's see, what else is there? Okay. As we mentioned, when I was here for the 50th anniversary, and then I got invited back for his birthday party, and he wanted a token Democrat here. Now, one of the grandsons, volunteered to be part of it, but he said he was disowned at that time anyway, so that's why they asked me to come. So, and I come back to be the token Democrat at the gatherings. Stay in a buggy, boy, I heard him say that, and I had a little period of time when I was out of work, so Owen and I would talk, and he'd say, well, something's going to come, something's going to come. Finally, he said, Les, it's getting so serious, we're going to have to turn it over to my mother. That's all there's to it. So we went and she did the praying, and we got to go to work. But some of the early days, if you don't mind me telling a little bit about the early days, as I recall or heard about it. Seems there was a guy came into town, and he met someone, and he had come in off the range, and he was kind of hungry, and so it was the cowboy here, and you know how great it is when they write songs about people. Well, he's had songs written about him. If you don't mind, I'll sing it for you. I don't play the guitar, and I hope nobody does here. And say, I'll get it, because I get a little off tune. But the ballad goes like this. He walked into Chamberlain, and he walked around the block, and he walked right into a bakery shop. He took 3 donuts right out of the grease, and he handed the lady a 5-cent piece. Well, she not being one to be slighted, she picks up the coin, studied him a little bit, and she said, "Hey, Marion." She looked at the money and she looked at him. She said, "This money, it's no good to me. There's a hole in the middle and it's all the way through." Says Marion, "There's a hole in your donut too." One thing led to another, and they saw more of each other, and they were kind of enamored with each other. And so Marion decided he's going to have to propose to Claire. He didn't know how to do it. He read some books on it. He didn't like that. And so he said, well, it's just going to have to be this way. And again, I like to do it in song because that way I don't make up anything as I go. When I talk, I have a tendency to lose my way and make up something. So one bright night they're out talking, and so he gets close to her and he says, Claire, Claire, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy over the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a fine carriage. But you'll look so grand when you take your place behind me on my horse named Pete. Well, Claire didn't know about that. And she says, Marion, Marion, here is your answer, yes. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. I don't need that stylish marriage. We don't need a stylish carriage. But I'll be darned if I'll be charmed into riding double on a horse named Pete. Claire thought, and said, what am I going to do? So he went back and he said, Claire, Claire, I didn't mean to cramp your style. I'm still crazy over the love of you. I found a friend with a carriage. We can use it for our marriage. Then you'll look sweet upon the seat in a buggy pulled by old Pete. Marion said, that's wonderful. Or Claire said that's wonderful. So she said to Marion, 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 what a sweet man are you. You make me crazy over the love of you. I'll love riding in your friend's carriage. It'll be sweet to be with you in the seat of a buggy pulled and a buggy pushed, and especially with a horse named Pete. And so they were, now it is. So they got married. And as you heard the story, the blunt thing I didn't know. That was good. I could have worked that into something. But they had a dream. And I'd like to share that dream with you. And that's with a little music too, if you don't mind. Oh, if their dream was, all during this time, to have something that they could pass on. And so it goes. Oh, give us a home where our children can roam, and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and our children can enjoy life every day. Home, home on the range, where the Murphy family can play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and our lives just get better day by day. They got them a home where the children could roam, and the children did start showing up. Kathleen and Mary Margaret, Jim, Owen, and John, and it looked like a ball king would form. Home, home on the range, where the Murphy family can play, where seldom was heard a discouraging word, and their lives just got better day by day. The children grew up and started on their own. They kept the great values and memories they had learned, where seldom was heard a discouraging word, and they had the support of the clan. Home, home on the range, where the Murphy family still play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and God's graces pour out every day.
be in the Oscar. Thanks, pal. We think so too.
Yeah. So our wish is that God will bless the Murphy family and keep them strong in the faith and the love of the Lord. They help them preserve the values that they built over the last 60 years. Marion and Claire, we all love you and what you stand for and what you have here. Thanks for the contribution you've made to the world that we live in. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I told him to stay in the buggy.
She's always greater. She was a greater
Hi, I'm Lois Murphy. I married Owen Murphy, and this happens to be, we'll be married for 25 years in August. And I guess my first memories are made of this for me. On March 1967, Owen Murphy took me to Reliance, South Dakota for the weekend. We came in over a dirt road from the east and met Jim, Owen's brother. We came to the mailbox, and we still had many miles to go before we saw the house down in a draw, surrounded by some young elm trees. I also remember sitting on the arm of a big overstuffed chair while Owen introduced me to his family and told them of our plans of marriage. In August of 1967, I married Owen Murphy. I became a part of this wonderful family. I was always treated just like a daughter. I thank you both, Marion and Claire, for all your support and your love over the past 25 years. Thank you for going to Sarah, Pennsylvania for our wedding. Mother, I especially thank you for sticking up for us for that bet that we had with Leo Wooster about Owen wearing cowboy boots. It was the first $100 we ever had in our life. Yes, 25 years has flown by. Thank you both for helping us with the kids. When we were in the hospital, getting another one, Claire was always there to take care of the ones at home. Thank you, Mother, for teaching them so many wonderful songs and for giving them your faith. 5 little kittens stood in a row, all bowed down to the children, so. Thank you for the memories on tapes. How many hot dogs did Sean eat at that 4-H hayride? How many times did he fall off that hay wagon? And we have a tape of our daughter Kathy. I have 3 things to say, but I have to guess. Daddy, thank you for the memories of looking for cows in the dark, and for the many hours that you spent in the corrals watching my children ride your horses. Daddy, I want to thank you again for coming to Pier on March 3rd for Kathy's birthday party, and for especially carrying in groceries from the end of the driveway when I sunk out of sight in the snow. We'll do anything to get people to come and stay all night. Do you realize that you have traveled to California, to Texas, to Maine, and to Minnesota, plus trips to Pier to share in special occasions of births, baptism, first communion, confirmation, and graduation. And now you've gone trips to Chicago and Elko, Minnesota for weddings. We are both truly dedicated, you are both truly dedicated and loving parents, and I will never be able to express to you how much I love you and admire you and cherish every moment of being a part of your family. I thank God for giving me the opportunity to be a Murphy, and I thank God for Marion and Claire. I love you both.
Aunt Margaret, that she sent to me, and it's about what happened about 52 years or 52 and a half years ago. We were just out in Rapid City where we learned it was 52 and a half or 51 and a half. 51 and a half. But this is, Marion Murphy really doesn't resemble Cupid, but he didn't let that bother him in 1939 and 1940. During my annual visit at the Murphy Ranch north of Reliance, we stopped at Donald's filling station. Marion, never missing a chance to introduce friends, brought two young men to the car to meet his sister-in-law. One was a handsome, so I thought, young farmer named Frank Wooster. Later, Frank and I danced a couple of times, went to a show in Chamberlain the next day, and that was it for several months. Marion and Claire were making frequent trips to Blunt during the next year. Each time they came, Marion had a non-existent message from Frank for me. Then he would take an equally non-existent message back to Frank. After several months of this, I finally said, if that guy has anything to say to me, let him come say it in person. That message was delivered verbatim. After about 6 months courtship, Frank and I were married, and I moved to the Wooster farm north of Reliance. The next 50 or more years are history. Years of companionship, picnics shared holidays, problems and joys. Kids growing up together, sometimes hard to separate Murphys from Woosters. God was certainly blessed with all of us for giving us all so many years together. With love and prayers, Frank and Margaret Wooster.
Relatives visiting, cousins coming from the city. We got to show them how to ride a horse. We got to sleep in the bed crossways. We got to wash miles and miles and pounds of dishes. And I would go to the outhouse and stay out there till the dishes were done. And that maybe Snooky and the Lynches can remember me doing that. There's no more outhouse. I remember visiting Grandma and Grandpa Murphy in Kennebec. I remember, this is the memories of family that I have. I remember Grandma Murphy fixing meals, and we went with Grandpa Murphy to the jail where he fed the prisoners when he was the sheriff. I remember the time that he dropped the bullets out of his pants and they landed in the furnace and we had an explosion in the house. I remember the time that Grandpa O'Donnell came to visit us, and he had an old car with a rumble seat in the back, and we got to ride to church in the rumble seat, and it was the first time we'd ever seen anything like that, and it was very exciting. And I remember going to out with the Woosters, and I remember getting to babysit with the Wooster kids, and I remember one time they had a dam out north of their house, and I lost the kid for about 20 minutes, and I couldn't find him, and all I could do was look at that dam, and I prayed, and I said and of course all the kids were there. But those are some of the memories I have, and of going to places with Frank and Margaret, and Frank being very silly, and and Frank and I went to a movie one time. It was called The Court Jester, and it had Daddy Kay. And Frank laughed so hard in that movie, I thought he would split. And every time for 30 years that I ever see that name of that movie, I think of Frank. And these are just some of the memories that I have of family. And I have memories of how valuable religion was, and how when we would go to church, we would go through gumbo, we would go through snow drifts. One time the car got buried in the snow on the way to church, and somehow Father O'Reilly would always wait church for the Murphys because he knew we were always going to show up. And those were some of the ways that I learned the value of religion, the value of faith, as well as learning the value of the family, and the big family, and the cousins coming, and how exciting it was for the cousins to come. And I remember the value of work, and I learned things at work, like I learned how to get out of work, and I learned how to manipulate other people to do work instead of me. Like when we would go to the north pasture, and somebody would have to go to the east side, and somebody would have to go to the west side, and the east side was always bigger and hotter and worse to ride, and I would always find a way to go to the west side and get one of the boys to go to the east side, and I learned how to do that. I learned how to work fast under pressure. My mother would leave home in the morning and give me a list of things to do. I learned how to do it when I heard her at the top of the hill. She worked at the car at the bottom of the hill. I learned to get everything done that she told me to do just in the time that the car would be coming down the hill. And I learned to work under pressure in that kind of a situation. I learned how to clean manure out of a barn. And I have used that in so many. At work, I use that all the time. I go to meetings all the time, and somebody has to clean out the manure from this meeting, and I always know how to do it, and I learned how to do it at home. And those are just some of the things that I learned. I learned the value of friends. I learned that friends are your life. I learned that when anyone would come to the ranch, and they would be someone coming to pick up the cattle, there would be someone coming to fix something, there would be somebody that lost a cow and was looking for it, it would be somebody that was lost and came down the end of the road, and we were the end of the road. They would come in for coffee and to eat, and it didn't matter who they were. It didn't matter if we'd never seen them before. It didn't matter if we would never see them again. They were in the house, and they were sitting down, and they were having coffee, and they were talking with us. And that's how I learned the value of neighbors and the value of friends and the value of opening up to the world and the importance of people. And I remember when I went to Notre Dame, and I would bring kids with me home on the weekends, and they would be sleeping on the floor, and they would be sleeping all over the house. And I always felt like our house was big, even though I know our house was very little, but it always seemed like our house had room for everybody. And there was never anybody saying, you know, I don't think we have room for them. I never heard my parents say we don't have room for them, ever in my life, even though people might be falling out of the rafters. We always had room for whoever would come. And my friends from Notre Dame used to love to come out and hunt and do all kinds of fun things and shoot holes in mailboxes one time, but that we never really talked too much about later. I remember, I don't want to go on and on because I was just kind of rambling after that, but I just was starting to remember concrete things about growing up, and I wanted to thank you for making my memories of my childhood very rich. I have very rich memories of my childhood, and thank you. Thank you, Mother, and thank you.
Anybody else have a story they'd like to read or read?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try something.
It's Bob. He cut you off, Grandma. I think I'd like to tell.
Yeah.
Well, Grandma wants to tell a story about
Okay.
it. This is a real nice thing. I just want to tell you how easily it could never have happened. We met at a Casey the park in here, and I didn't know him, and he didn't know me, but we kind of were aware together there, I guess. And all of a sudden it was time to go home, and I had a rickety old Bob tea, and the starter wouldn't work. And so this young man came over to the corner and walked over to see if he could start the car. Well, I always kind of liked it here, and I was about 18 years old, 19 or something, and I was always on the lookout for a date because I never had one. And we talked a little bit, and decided maybe we could get better acquainted. So it was kind of next Friday night when he'd come up and where I was working here, and we would do something. It was a Mark's Theater show at the theater. So I did all the rest of the week, and got myself all dressed up, and was planning this good night, and let's see. He could he dressed all up, and when he came up to the upstairs where I was living, like, you see me beside me. You know, somebody, these people is well, he said, he turned around and he said, Miss Claire was out. We'll never play a trick like that on me again. I'll never come back. To hell with her. He started climbing down the stairs. He's going back to Vivian. He was never going back to Vivian. And Margaret was working in a little candy shop down on the street. And she knew that he was supposed to be coming. And he said, he stepped in the candy shop. He said, I thought I had a date with your sister. I didn't have a name by that time. It was just your sister. She must have found something else she wanted to do. And Margaret said, oh no. He said, she's not there. He said, yes, she's there. I know she's there. She's there a while ago. I just came down from there and there's nobody there. And so she said, well, come on, let's go back up. So they went up the stairs and over and cooked breakfast for all of them and walked up down to the hall and opened the door. And I was there, all dressed up, ready for a date. And something was hidden. And anyway, we still was in the show.
The rest is history.
Had to go on the back to Vivian that night, we wouldn't have 21 grandchildren.
I have to correct that story a little bit, though. When he came downstairs after he didn't get a response to the door, he said, where the hell is she? I got to tell you a little bit more, too, because then after this went along and they were dating for a while and they were, I guess they probably had told the folks they were going to get married. They went out and told Mother and Dad out at the farm, used to appear there, that Mother said that they were going to get married. And so Mother told Dad, and Dad said, when? And she said, well, in June. And Dad said, well, anything can happen by that time. But I don't think Marion ever knew this, that I had to help him select his diamond. He was too embarrassed to go in with Claire to pick the diamond. So Claire and I went in a few days ahead of time down to the jewelry store. We looked them all over and which ones. And so then when Marion came up the next time, then he came to me to go and help him find a diamond for Claire, not knowing that we already had plans. We looked him over and picked him out and saw which was pretty, and I said, well, I think she'd like this one best. So that was Marion didn't know that was a put-up job till So there's a lot of intrigue goes on.
I want to know about the stories that he used to tell you. What did he tell you Franklin said to say?
Well, he never told me what he said. He'd always say, well, he told me to tell you something when I came up here, but he said, I don't remember what it was. Then he'd go back down and say the same thing to Marion. Bob?
I'm trying not to follow with you. My story, I'm Bob. I'm what you call a son-in-law, probably a son-in-law. I'm born in Chicago, and so you can imagine coming out to Reliance, South Dakota, is kind of a culture shock. When I first came out to, this is probably kind of a good news or bad news, good news story. When I first came out to Reliance, South Dakota,
I was a manager in Illinois Bell, and I'd taken some time off around Christmas time. Captain swears it was Thanksgiving time, but at any rate, I drove out I-80 with a hell of a snowstorm. In fact, I spent some time in a ditch. They closed the I-80 in the morning, and I spent about 3.5 hours in this ditch until the patrol people came out and pulled me out. And I got here. And I arrived, and it was a group of Murphy people and Burke people. And a lot of people that it didn't look like me.
Good Irish, didn't it?
And I got this reception from Mr. Murphy. It was very rough reception. And I didn't know whether I should turn around and go back or tough it out. So I got another message from the woman back here who said, tough it out. So I toughed it out. So I went into the living room, and there were a bunch of grandchildren and son-in-laws and daughters, and everyone was telling stories, but Mr. Murphy had gone out into the pasture. And Mr. Murphy was out in the pasture feeding or baling, loading bales of hay to bring them into for the cattle. Now, keep in mind, Mr. Murphy and I were not what you would call on great sound waves like this. And so a few hours later, Mr. Murphy came in. It was a snowstorm, a blizzard. A few hours later, Mr. Murphy came in, and he was cussing. He was saying, damn, he was cussing. And it seems that he had backed his tractor into a pole. If you recall, I said I worked for Illinois Bell. So that pole carried some telephone wires on it, 8 lines to be exact, around, it was holiday time. So I'll give you Christmas or I'll give you Thanksgiving, but you know what happens around that time of year? People are always calling and calling long distance. And you know what happened? Those 8 lines were down. And so guess what? Morris, and Monty, and Bob went out somewhere in that pasture and found some clothes hanger wire and made what is called an iron wire splice. And we put 8 parties back into service again. From that time on, Mr. Murphy, that was 22 years ago, from that time on, Mr. Murphy and I have had arguments. We've argued about politics. We've argued about presidents. We've argued about anything you can think of. And there's always been a feeling of love and a feeling of respect. And 22 years later, or 18 years later, we'll put up one more anecdote. 18 years later, there's a child over here that's named Marion. And she's Marion because of the feelings that Kathleen and I have had for this man. And certainly for the strength that he's given us and the strength and love and compassion that we've had in spite of that rocky start. So, Marion.
I have one of my own that I like to read. I won't read this whole thing. I did have some stories that I wanted to read one. It involves many evenings that I sat at the kitchen table on the ranch and listened to the stories and discussions of my folks and Guy and Mabel Post. I don't think I realized then how special these moments were. It wasn't until Lois and I developed these kind of friendships ourselves that I realized how important and special they are. It's only those friendships that have developed and survived during good times and not so good times that truly chronicle the true meaning of commitment and caring. The kids would be sent off to bed, and the 4 of them would still be at the table. Finally, Mabel and my dad would give up, leaving Guy and Mother at the table discussing topics involving politics, religion, but of course, most importantly to Guy, the subject of kids was always paramount in any discussion. The evening would usually end for Guy with a dish of ice cream. No matter how late they visited in the night, Mother and Guy would be back at the kitchen table before daylight and before anyone else in the house was moving. The coffee pot was on, and they would be resuming their discussions from the night before, or embarking on new areas that only many years of deep and caring friendship and love could develop. While the four of them shared a sense of belonging and commitment to each other, I believe Guy and my mother shared a special bond that was cemented by their enjoyment of the humorous side of life, especially if they could get one up on the other. As I promised, this is a last memory here, but it's not my last memory that I will keep and relive many times. Thanks to you and for all your friends for showing us the importance of friendship and caring. Anybody else have a story?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
From the bottom of my heart, I gotta thank you for coming here. I'm sorry.
Uncle Marion, stay in the buggy.
This is kind of a repeat from, what was that? When we were here last time. What year? Whatever. It's been a couple of years since we got together like this, but it's pretty typical. Let's have dinner. Up come the speakers. A little different tonight. Here we, Lester Gary gets up, puts in a speech, and up comes our dinner. Kathleen pulled a dirty trick on me. She reminded me that I was supposed to do some homework to make a speech, but I can't top anything that they've done already. They did a beautiful job. Thanks. Yeah.
We went to Elvis.
Well, you got a donation. I was free then. Thanks, Mom, Dad. My family loves it here. And we'll probably be back. Thanks.
Sean, you want to do?
No.
Can't talk.
And the 4 minutes?
You bet.
Okay. I can remember a lot of good times I had with this old cowpuncher growing up out in Stony Butte. And he did many nice things for the whole family. And I remember very many of them. But the one thing, the best thing he ever did was when he brought this lady home. I think he was every bit as sincere a brother as he has been a staunch Democrat, a Republican.
That was a nice try, Margaret. That's as close as we'll ever get from a Democrat.
I almost have to leave tonight.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. That's all we have on the program.
Kim,
I'm sorry. Kim.
No.
Come on down.
I just have a couple things to say. And I guess one thing is I have to thank Grandma and Grandpa because when I was in high school a couple years ago, I had a paper assignment that I had to do. And it was called the definition paper. And what that involved was I was given a word, and I had to define that word without using Webster's. Well, it didn't matter anyway because my word was optimism, and when I looked up in Webster's, it says the state of being optimistic. So it didn't help me a whole lot. But when I started to think about it, the best way to describe optimism was to use its counter, which is pessimism. And I couldn't think of a better relationship than the idea once again of the H over T between Grandma and Grandpa. So I used their relationship and explained how Grandma always thought of hard times or happy times, while Grandpa always thought of hard times. And their relationship has helped me to understand that although Grandpa sees the hard times, he still celebrates the happy times. And Grandma will recognize the hard times when she's always celebrating the happy times. And that's something that we have to remember, is that even in the middle of the hard times, there's always going to be celebration of those happy times. Another thing that always made me really proud was my name. No. Being named after grandmother. My middle name is Claire. And from the time I was 5 years old, I was running around here. Aunt Margaret has called me her little Claire. And I don't know how many people knew about that. That's also something that's been very special to me. To be noted for looking like such a beautiful woman, both inside and out. Someone that I love and respect and admire so much that I could share in her name and her family and her love. Can't thank her enough, or my family enough, for giving me that name. Thanks.
Marion, named after Grandpa Marion. I had to write a paper for my English class. It's called cadencia, and cadencia is a Spanish word for a place that you call home, and it's not like a home. I don't remember the exact definition for it. I wrote mine, it wasn't necessarily like the home that you live in, it was a place that you felt at home. I wrote mine on the ranch, and because that was a place, you know, it was like a home away from home. Like I would come every summer and spend weeks to a month with Grandma and Grandpa, learning to, and with my cousins and with everybody, learning to ride horses, learning the ways of the ranch, with my mom taking me up and down the pasture where she used to look for cows when she was little and stuff. And I remember little simple things like strawberry Kool-Aid and biscuits, pancakes in the morning, and Grandma always being up and always being the last one to go to bed, and always having a story or something to tell. Dad and Grandpa and everybody else arguing over the dinner table about, again, politics, religion, and everything. And, you know, I was never old enough to really want to get involved in them, but I was always, you know, aware of Grandpa's strong, to say the least. And I'm always sorry, you know, that I've never been able to be involved in these conversations, but I don't know if I have enough strength myself to carry on the conversation with them. But those are just when I wrote this paper, I wrote it this year, and I read it, I gave it to my mom, and she was going to have me bring it up, and I didn't want to, because I didn't want to stand up in front of everybody and tell this, but after hearing everybody else, you know, I said mine and say it too. But I just want to thank Grandma and Grandpa and everybody else for just, you know, a childhood full of memories that, you know, none of my friends can ever, you know, talk about. Nobody's ever learned to ride a horse or go fishing. I mean, all my friends, you know, talk about boring grandparents. I have so many stories to tell about, so just fun times at the ranch, and I don't know what else to say. I just want to thank you for just making a very special childhood for us.
I've fallen off of Bronx and I've fallen off of Haystack, but about 60-some years ago, I fell for a woman and I haven't got over it yet.
go on from here.
We do.
We will, and we do.
We hope we see everybody tomorrow.
And 10 years from now.
And 10 years from now. Church is at 8:30 and the open house is at 2 o'clock.
Here we are at the open house for Grandma and Grandpa Murphy. There's the cake. There's the spring. Really beautiful. And there's a picture of the happy couple. A statue. It's not there. A nice 60th anniversary thing. Back up. There it goes in all its splendor. Here's the cakes that people have made for Grandma and Grandpa. Congratulations, Grandma and Grandpa, and the family. These lovely cakes are made by Leola Peterson, I've been told. And you're Mabel Post, right?
Yeah.
How do you know Grandma and Grandpa Murphy?
Oh, I've known them for years and years.
How'd you meet them?
I met them in here on Main Street up here. And your grandpa introduced me to your grandma. She was just a new bride.
And here's Grandma Murphy with her son, Owen. Beautiful as always. There's Mr. Murphy, Marion. Show us your Elvis impression.
No. Let me live that down once in my life, okay?
No, can't let you do that. There, say something memorable. Say something memorable.
I'm going to be talking to her later, so that's when I'll say my memorability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talking to her. Oh, now she leaves.
Murphy, right? Are you running it?
Can you? How are you related to?
Yeah, how are you related to Grandma?
Look into the lens.
Okay, I remember one time, the very first time we ever came back here, and
No, you don't.
Grandma was making a cake, and she was making frosting, and she was using the electric mixer, and she told me I could lick both the beaters after she was done if I wanted to, and after I licked the first one, she told me that I licked it clean enough that she didn't think she had to wash it. So then when I got to the second one, I thought that I better lick it a little better because I didn't think I licked that first one very good at all. So the second one I licked it till it was pretty much all the way clean and no frosting on it. What are you talking to?
Look in the lens.
I am.
No, you're looking at the mic.
Oh, well, no, I am now, but I'm not. Okay, that's enough. I'm done.
Wait. That's it? I bet you're probably supposed to share, give me the other beater that you didn't.
Share.
How about Brian? You got a memory?
My name is Brian Murphy.
How are you related to Grandma and Grandpa?
Say a memory.
Grandma and Grandpa are my grandparents. I remember once when I was really little, when I was really little, but I was kind of little, I went over to Grandma's when my mom and Dad went to California to see you guys. And me and Steven both got chicken pox. And Grandma stayed up all late and put a bunch of stuff in Nikki, white stuff on our chicken pox to make sure we got better.
Oh, all right.
And we got better.
Oh, good.
No thanks to Mom and Dad.
Well, I have a lot of memories, but one most memorable memory was when they were branding the cattle and they were doing something else to the cattle when they were on the table. Yeah, I guess. But then I found out later when we had Rocky Mountain oysters for dinner, I found out what they were doing. And that's it.
I don't have one specific memory of Grandma and Grandpa, but I just want to say that I was glad that we lived close enough to them to know them really well. I feel like I know my grandparents better than a lot of my friends knew their grandparents, and I'm just happy that I got to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Just talk louder.
Talk loud.
And you don't have to do it though,
It's recording, so be careful what you say.
Here, I don't know.
Talk loud.
I know. I remember Grandpa yelling and screaming from across the pasture. Tell me to go this way or that way or this way on the horse. You couldn't know what he was doing. Okay.
Hi, Lori. I love you.
You did it for me.
Oh, okay. She means stay in the buggy.
Can you help me find the priest?
Do you have another memory you want to share?
Okay, one time let me think and come back.
Think say about castrating cows and Rocky Mountain oysters.
I'm not going to talk about eating mountain oysters.
That's what he did.
Riding to school on walking to school when it was 100 degrees below zero. No, not 100 degrees below zero.
Uphill both ways.
About 20 below zero, walking
Uphill
to school,
both ways.
uphill both ways, and freezing my feet, and getting to school, and
How deep is snow?
The snow was 5 feet of snow. Yes. And then I got to school, and then I made 100 in all my tests, and I was perfect.
From what? On video? Yeah, just on video. think about it, so I'll clean up my language.
Sitting on top of the red roof in the corral, and Grandpa getting really mad and making us jump. And we go up
I
there.
remember that.
Going up anyway and jumping off whenever Grandpa came out of the house so he wouldn't see us.
Okay, thanks.
Favorite or best?
Whatever.
I don't know my favorite, but I remember one time we went out to Chamberlain and there was a big dirt hill and I was climbing on it and my mother and Grandpa went into a store and Grandpa came out and just started screaming at me, telling me to get out because I was at the top and he was afraid that it would come down. That was the only thing I actually
And here's the new happy couple. Right here.
Just like what?
Knock it off.
I'll tell you what, why don't you come back about a couple days from now, and I'll tell you the whole story about what happened here.
We'll already have it on tape.
I'll remember that.
We'll have it on tape. We won't need it.
Well, damn, this is critical here.
Look into this.
You haven't given me
Look into that.
Look at that, what is it?
That's the lens.
It's like a washing machine.
Are you going to play around or are you going to say something?
I'm going to stand here as long as you do.
Go on, tell him.
Now you can blackmail him.
Yeah. What'd you say, Melody?
We are standing in line for questions.
Oh. Trying to get all the way.
I already got one, okay.
Oh. Well, it doesn't matter then.
Picture your butts. We want a memory of that.
Hi, Kendra.
Kendra. Kendra.
Oh, show how buff you are. Hey, you're too close now. There's something nice about Grandma and Grandpa. Great Grandma and Grandpa.
Hey, I love great grandma and grandpa Murphy. Why not?
Oh, gee whiz. No. Margie. Hi. Fight some more.
We need you to sing Memory of Grandma.
Yeah.
Memory of great grandma.
All those Burks have the same ditzy sense of humor.
I know.
Now recite a memory. I mean, remember something you remember about them. Something fun or sometime he yelled at you or something. Going fishing or something like that. Catching a big fish or something.
One time we went fishing with puppy.
That was exciting.
That was. What, do you even know these people?
He's
Okay.
too young. He's too young to have.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know who they are.
Fred.
No, I thought so. Dance around or something. Now we see just a fraction of the hundreds of thousands of friends that Grandma and Grandpa have accumulated over the past 60 years. Here's
We're going to have a short program after they get done cutting the cake. And I promise you it's going to be short and it's going to entertain you. Enjoy your cake.
Kathleen.
Help Matt and Claire.
Kathleen.
Thanks. I think there's still cake and ice cream left. I hope there is. I didn't get up there yet, so I'm hoping there is. But if you haven't had any, if you're ready for some more, don't let us slow you down from that. We want to have a short program today. Mostly we want to just get up and show off. We like to show off every chance we get. So, and especially we like to show off. We like to show off the bride and groom over there on the far side. It's my responsibility and treat to get to introduce the program coordinator today, and we're very fortunate to have Miss Lakeville here as our coordinator. I guess her exact title is not Miss Lakeville, but it's only because the judges weren't aware of her attributes as I am. To me, she's Miss Lakeville, she's Miss Minnesota, she's Miss Marquette University, and she's my daughter, Kim.
Okay, I did this thing on our day of introducing all of my aunt and uncle that came from that wonderful couple back there. And to begin with, I don't even know where she's at. Kathleen, where are you?
More subtle.
There she is. Kathleen, I would like you to come forward, and I would like you to bring your family and introduce them to all those people. Bob, that includes you.
Thank you. Oh, you better go over and say hello to the bride. Hi.
Thank you, Kim. And as Kim said, I'm Kathleen.
Oh.
And I'm a former Reliance resident. And before I introduce my family, just I want to make sure I have a chance to thank all of you for coming in. It's wonderful. You all wait. This is my husband, Bob.
Come over and say hello.
And this is my daughter, Marion. She just graduated from high school and will be going to the University of Iowa this fall. And this is my son, Matthew, who is a junior in high school. And we live in Oak Park, Illinois, which is just right outside Chicago. And if any of you ever visit Oak Park, Illinois, I would like to have you stop and see us. Because I learned how to put a cup of coffee on and have neighbors over from Marion and Claire when I grew up in Reliance. Thank you again for coming. We also have a little story we would like to share with you. And this was written by Kathleen herself, and it's enclosed in a pamphlet that each of your families can take home with you. Marion would like to read it to you. Okay. Marion Murphy and Claire O'Donnell were married on May 24, 1932. The wedding was in Lyman, South Dakota, and Margaret O'Donnell, sister of the bride, was bridesmaid. Wilfred Murphy, brother of the groom, was best man. The couple went on a honeymoon to Yellowstone National Park. Marion and Claire moved around between Berto, Indian, and Draper for the first few years of their marriage. During this time, Mary Margaret was born. Marion worked hard on the road, but both Marion and Claire dreamed of having their own ranch and owning their own herd of cattle. In 1937, Marion and Claire moved north of the line to the ranch where they spent the next 50 years of their lives. Shortly after they moved,
rodeos, quilting bees, school programs, family reunions, birthday dinners when the birthday person got their favorite pie and got to stay up all night. In the winter, there were times when they were snowed in for 4 to 6 months and saw no one but each other. They worried each season about whether there would be enough hay for the cattle to make the winter, and whether the pastures would dry up in the summer. In the spring, the creek would rise, and the calves would be born, often in the middle of a spring blizzard. Sometimes there would be calves in the kitchen. One Easter Sunday morning, Claire had a difficult time getting breakfast because there were 6 baby calves running around the kitchen, bumping into her. Claire was one of those non-working women. All she did was rise at 5 a.m., get breakfast for everyone, dress the kids, and take them with Marion down to the hayfield, where she drove the horses or a tractor, mowing and raking hay. Then she would come home at night, fix dinner, do the washing after heating the water on the stove, hang the clothes on a clothesline to dry, light the kerosene lamp, and read a book. The only other time she would get to sit down was on a Saturday afternoon when she would stick her ear into the old wooden battery-operated radio and listen to opera. The kids remember being told not to make a sound as Madame Butterfly sang her sad song right in the middle of the old ranch house. Similarly, they weren't to make a sound when Marion stuck his head in the same wooden radio and listened to Joe Louis beat somebody up on the regular Friday night fight. Marion worried about grass and hay and calves being born and dying and checking the pasture for sick cattle and the dams drying up too early in the summer. He loved the land and the wonders of the seasons, and he loved his kids, and he loved a good horse and a good rodeo. He taught his kids the value of work and the value of family. 60 years later, and all their kids are doing well and have families of their own and have spread themselves all over the United States. Family reunions look kind of like an international summit, as different races and ethnic backgrounds are represented in the daughters and sons-in-law, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren. 2 favorite sayings come to mind when describing Marion and Claire and their philosophy of life. Many years ago, when the bleakness of January would bring many feet of snow, and it would look like winter would never end, Claire would go to the window and look out at 50 feet of snow on the 4th day of a 4-day blizzard and say, "I think it's a clearing up shower. Soon there will be a Chinook." The Chinook is a warm wind that would melt the snow and clear the roads. This symbolizes Claire. She is always optimistic and encouraging and prayerful. She has told her family to wait for the Chinook in all kinds of trials and tribulations, times when school was difficult for someone, or when there was no job for a while, or a grandchild was in trouble. Whatever it was, Claire was on the other end of the telephone line, and the kids would call, and Claire would listen, and then she would share her wisdom, and all the messengers, there was that same hope of, soon there will be a Chinook. And sure enough, she's usually right. A Chinook comes along, and everything works out. Marion's phrase is one we've all heard over and over: stay in the buggy. And it tells you who he is. Marion is a tenacious, tough, sometimes stubborn, but always caring father, grandfather, brother, neighbor, and friend to thousands. He befriends people everywhere. On the tour bus in New York City, in Rome, in Ireland, in the doctor's office, in line at a grocery store, at a stockgrower meeting, carrying around a political petition. When he leaves, he knows who is there and something about their life. He has a passion for life that never quits. He drives his family a little crazy sometimes because he knows everybody and everybody knows him. And he has kept more people waiting in cars while he has had one more little visit than any man alive. So his message of stay in the buggy means different things to different people when he parts from them. It means stay tough. It means don't forget to come back. It means keep on trying as life can be hard, but it's worth every minute of the struggle. And most of all, it means I love you a hell of a lot, and I don't know exactly how to say that, and this is my way of letting you know. Marion and Claire have never been like 2 peas in a pod. Their differences have provided the spark for their lives. How boring they might have been had they been too much alike. Because of their differences, they give a rich and valuable heritage. Their sense of humor has added to the spark. So Marion and Claire have given their family and their friends the best of themselves. The hope found in waiting for the Chinook, and the tough strength of staying in the buggy say well what they together have offered their family and the world. We all thank you, Marion and Claire Murphy. May God bless you, and may we all celebrate your 70th anniversary in only 10 years.
In case any of you haven't realized, I'm not going to go in any order as far as introducing kids and grandma and grandpa. So the next person I would like to come down is Uncle Jimmy. Where are you? And Jimmy, yes, you are coming all the way down here, and you are talking with your microphone, and I want you to introduce your family for me. Ryan is back in the back, and he's doing the camera, so he's going to take a break for a little bit.
Hi, I'm Jim. This is my wife, Kate. Ryan, oh, he's right here. I was going to sing with Sioux Falls here in Waco today.
This is probably going to be a little bit funny, too. I get to reintroduce my dad to you all. He already came up here and talked to you, but he's a pretty good guy. So, you might want to listen to him. My dad, he's kind of short, so he'll stand, you'll probably still want to stand taller, but I love you, Daddy.
I thought she'd do something to get back at me after putting her on the spot earlier. I didn't know whether I'd get the mic back for sure. But what she told me to do is I'm supposed to introduce my kids, and she had me practicing yesterday so I didn't forget any of the names. I'd like to take a moment also, as Kathleen did, to thank all of you for being here today. And when I think about all of you that were here 50 years ago and are back again, I can't help but think about those that aren't. And I know I can't remember all of them, I can't say all their names, but my Uncle James O'Donnell, who was just called home recently, we'll miss him, but we're glad to have someone of his stature in heaven making a way for us. Him, along with his brothers Francis and Pat, are here in spirit, I'm sure. My Uncle Woody Murphy, he was not here 10 years ago, but I'm sure he was here in spirit at that time as he is now. As he was mentioned earlier, he was responsible for part of this. He was the best man at the wedding 60 years ago for my parents. We never had a celebration when I was growing up that Guy Post was not there. And Guy Post was here while we were planning the 50th anniversary. He wasn't here for the 50th anniversary, but he was here helping us plan it. And if he's here today, which I know he is, he's thinking about us, he's here today, and he's planning to play a trick on somebody here, probably Marion or Claire. So be careful, he'll be around. We're very fortunate to have Mabel and her family here, and I don't know where they are, but I'm sure glad they were able to make it. Thank you very much for coming today. Most of you here probably knew Paul Burke, my sister's husband. You'll get to meet his family. He was called home a few years ago, but he left a wonderful legation here that you'll get to meet here. And I'm just very happy to be part of that family and very proud of his family. Recently, a cousin of ours and a nephew of Marion and Claire was called home in an unfortunate car accident. Mike Lynch, my cousin, and we're very fortunate to have his wife here. Margie, thank you so much for coming. And my dad's sister, Mike's mother, is here, and thanks so much for being here. And my sisters. And Margaret, would you stand up and say hi to us? And Margie, would you please? Another lady that was here 10 years ago, and a lot of you, I'm sure, know, was Grandma Cogan, named Cogan. I don't know how we're having a celebration without her, but if she's here today, she's planning a picnic, I'm sure of that. So if we just take a moment to think of these people and all of our other friends and relatives that aren't here today, and say just a silent thought for them. Thank you very much. I think Kim told me that I was supposed to introduce my family, so I will get on with that. Whenever I think of introductions, it always reminds me of a story about my dad. My dad knew us all and loved us all equally well, I'm sure, because he would interchange our names at random at any point in time. I would come home after an extended absence, and he would always call me Jim and tell me something that Owen did. I may do that a little bit myself here today. I know my kids' names, but when I'm in front of people, I might not get them all right. So I don't think I'm supposed to follow a special order with introductions, but I would just like to have all my family come up front now, if you would. Our family falls into three groups right now. We have some that are still living at home. We have some that are transients that come home summer times and vacation from college. And we have some that have moved out and are starting families of their own and have only left their mark in the garage and in the attics and places like that. I'm sure all of you that have kids know what I'm talking about there. Ryan is 15, he's living at home, he's in high school, and he's anticipating the independence that a driver's license is going to bring him, I'm sure. Michael is 10. Michael has the distinction to be the only one that I'm taller than yet. Not for long, though, I don't think. Michael is anticipating the independence from his big brother, I think. Sean is, she said the tall one, but they're all tall to me. So Sean is going to be providing us with a new daughter and 3 new grandchildren in about 2 weeks. Sean and Pat are getting married August 1st at our house in Elko, Minnesota. We have, with this family, we get Melissa, and we get Beth, and we get Justin. So we're very fortunate to have them going to be part of our family in just a few weeks. Kevin and Beth, who are on our far left, were married last summer in Beth's hometown, in Beth's hometown of Evanston, Illinois. They spent the last year in Germany, and they're just home now for this celebration, and we're very fortunate and pleased to make it. Kevin is a Russian-German language specialist in the United States Army. They have to go back as soon as this party is over, but we're pleased to spend this much time with us. We have another daughter that's not here today. Kathy is in Germany right now. She called and talked to her grandparents yesterday morning, but we didn't get to talk to her, but she wasn't able to come. So with 2 children in Germany, if any of you are going there and need anybody to carry your luggage or anything like that, either Lois or I would volunteer. Kim is, who we just met, she'll be a junior next year at Marquette University. She's a resident assistant, and this year for the 2nd year. This is a full-time job for her without the added activities of school and classes, so she remains quite busy. Pat, who's on the left here of Ryan, Pat just graduated from the University of Notre Dame, and he's in Elko this summer. He's working in Marshall. He comes home on weekends, and well, part of his stint at Notre Dame involved an ROTC scholarship, so he has an obligation to the Army. He's going into the Army for active duty as a second lieutenant in February, I believe it is, of this year. So, but we're very fortunate to have him home for a few months before that. She's not going to I bet you're wondering, I didn't forget my wife. You're wondering why I was able to raise such good-looking kids. It's because this lady on my right, someone once said, the best present you can give a kid is to love their mother. Well, I give my kids a lot of presents in because I love their mother. Thank you.
From the governor of South Dakota, and this was sent to my dad a couple weeks ago. And what it says this is an executive proclamation from the state of South Dakota, the office of the governor. And whereas Marion and Claire Murphy began the celebration of life together as husband and wife in 1932, and whereas their marriage has spanned 60 years of service and devotion to their family, friends, and neighbors, and whereas through their lifelong dedication to the values of caring and sharing, Marion and Claire Murphy have helped make South Dakota a great place to live and work. And whereas on July 12, 1992 in Reliance, South Dakota, there will be an occasion of great joy and celebration as friends and loved ones gather to honor Marion and Claire. And whereas it is altogether fitting and proper that the governor of South Dakota recognize and commemorate the memorable milestones in the lives of the state's outstanding citizens. Now, therefore, I, George S. Nicholson, governor of the state of South Dakota, do hereby proclaim May 24, 1992 as Marion and Claire Murphy Day in South Dakota. And I join with the honored couple's family and friends in wishing them continued health and happiness in a state that stands prouder today because of their contributions and commitment. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the state of South Dakota in Pierre, the capital city, this 10th day of June in the year of our Lord, 1992. Signed, George S. Nicholson, Governor. If I've been counting right, we still have three down, two left. Right? Is that right? Yeah. I would like my Aunt Mary Margaret to come up and to introduce her family. So they're going to have a big long line too, I know.
Am I on?
My name is Marion Burke, and of course, as Owen told you before, my husband was Paul Burke, and if he was here today, he would be very proud of this troop we have here. I will start with, one of my sons, Monty, is not here. He wasn't able to come today. He has 3 children who also were not here, but I have numerous grandchildren. This is my son, John, and his wife, Kathy, and Jeremy, and Nicholas, and Adam from Rapid City. And this is my daughter, Monica, and her 2 children, Jeremiah and Kendra, who lives in Whitewood. And that's my daughter, Lori, and this is Jack and Jake in the red shirt, and her husband, Jack, and Melinda, who is my youngest grandchild. Where are we? Mark. Next is Mark. And he lives in Deborah and Rose. Rose, where are you? This is his wife Rose and his daughter Jessica. They live in Deborah. Next is my son Sean and his fiancée Christy. And they live in Whitewood. Sean is in Whitewood. And next is Melody and Mark, who live in Leeds, and this is their daughter Nicole, and she's my oldest granddaughter. And here's Michelle. I was going to start with the ages, and then they didn't line up right. So this is my daughter Michelle and her daughter Erin, who also live in Whitewood. Yeah, I got everybody in there. Okay. And I also would like to thank everyone for coming. We're very happy to have everybody here. These five sons and daughters of Marion and Claire wrote up a proclamation, and, well, that proclamation still holds strong, and Rachel would like to share that with you. Whereas Marion and Claire Murphy were united in marriage in 1932, and whereas 5 children were born, educated and taught the value of love, integrity, and the sacredness of the human spirit.
We, your children, pay tribute to you for your 60 years of commitment to each other and to us. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for teaching us to love openly, to work hard, and to have fun. Thank you for the sacrifices you have made for us, and especially thank you for your faith in us. We love you, Mary Margaret, Kathleen, Jim, Owen, and John. July 12, 1992. Just in from the press release, like that's basically what it is. I would like to have Herb and Hazel Norton to please stand. Herb and Hazel Norton. Can I have Herb and Hazel Norton to please stand? This young couple back here, they're celebrating their 70th anniversary.
Very much. Thank you.
There's just one last thing that I would like to share with you, and this was given to Grandma and Grandpa a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's from the bishop who resides in Rapid City. He's for the bishop of this diocese, Bishop Charles. And he sends his blessing, and I'm sure it will include all of us friends and family who have gathered here to help Marion and Claire celebrate. But I would like to close this program today by reading them this blessing. God, the eternal Father, keep you in love with each other, so that the peace of Christ may stay with you and be always in your home. May your friends console you and all live in peace with you. May you always bear witness to the love of God in this world, so that the afflicted and the needy will find in you generous friends, and welcome you into the joys of heaven. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you all. It makes us humble and proud for people to turn out for us like this. And God bless you all, and thanks for coming.
Yeah.